Hello world! Today we are going to talk about what is wrong with Andrew Yang's freedom dividend. My name is Lionel, a horror sci-fi author, and you can find a link to my book, The Psycho Trigger, in the description below. For those who have perused through my videos or just read the titles, you know that I am a supporter for the presidential candidate Andrew Yang for 2020. And I have been following him on the interwebs for a few weeks now. After listening to all the interview, town halls, and speech online, one thing that really stood out to me was that no one, and I mean no one, understood Andrew Yang's flagship position, the freedom dividend. Now, I want everybody to know that this is not a baseless claim. I do have evidence. So let's get to it. What is wrong with the Andrew Yang's freedom dividend? So, how do I know the interviewers and the audience don't really understand what the freedom dividends really entail? Well, I know this by the lines of question people were asking Andrew. May I call you Andrew? I'm just gonna call you Andrew. There were two lines of questioning. One, how do you pay for the freedom dividend? Second, wouldn't the freedom dividend destroy the economy because of X? These two questions are, well, just amateurish. And anyone who understands the modern monetary theory, MMT, knows what I meant. For those who don't, let me explain. So let's look at the first question. How to pay for the freedom dividend? The answer is quite simple. America will and can pay for it no matter what. To understand this, we have to understand what money is first. First, money itself, the greenback, the dollar, has no intrinsic value. It's nothing more than a piece of paper. However, we do use this piece of paper to keep track of how much work we have done in this country. And I can trade this paper for the goods that I need. So here, one thing to remember, the amount of money is really no different than the number on your Fitbit. It just keeps a record. To better illustrate this, let's look at an example with just two people and $1 in the entire economy. And let's say that I am a baker who makes one loaf of bread a day and I'm selling it for $1. Socialists like me love to use bakers as an example. You can trade $1 for a loaf of bread every day, and maybe later I will buy something from you for that dollar. So the money gets circulated. Now let's assume that one day I had a brilliant idea that allows me to make 100 loaves of bread a day. Great, right? But there is only $1 in the entire economy. So there is no money to purchase all of the bread that I've made. Well, some might say you should make the bread a penny each, but that could not cover the cost of the material. So how do we solve this problem? Well, just print more money. Why? Because money is just a tool to measure the productivity of the economy. It measures the creation of real assets like bread. So the more productive the economy is, the more money must be printed to keep a record of everything that's being produced. So, for example, 100 loaves of bread, we must print $100. By this logic, from the government's perspective, money is just a record of the productivity. So printing more money is good. It means that the country is producing more things. And freedom dividend is a record of the productivity created by automation. Of course, instead of giving the money to the machines, the money is given to the people, to the citizens. Therefore, the government can guarantee to pay out the freedom dividend, period, because money is just a record and nothing could stop the government from keeping a record. What the freedom dividend doesn't do is that it does not guarantee that there is some things to be purchased. Even though the government guarantees to pay out the freedom dividend, but if everybody stops working, the productivity goes down to zero and there's nothing to buy. In this case, it's like cheating your Fitbit, shaking your arm to get the record up, but you didn't actually do any of the work. This ties to the second question: will it destroy the economy? And the answer is no, it wouldn't. Because Andrew proposed a VAT along with the freedom dividend. As long as the freedom dividend payout is pegged or tied to the VAT, or even just some sort of a economic indicator, it will reflect an accurate record of the economy. So the more VAT collected, the more freedom dividend pays out. The less VAT collected, the less the freedom dividend pays out. So, what is wrong with the freedom dividend as it is currently proposed? Well, two things. One, political ramification. Second, the amount. Let me explain. Let's look at the freedom dividend from another angle. How can you argue that the freedom dividend is not a promise of a bribe to the people of the United States to vote for Andrew? And if the freedom dividend passes, there is nothing to prevent future candidates to promise even more of freedom dividends in the future to get votes. So if it works, it might work too well for its own good. The freedom dividend, therefore, must be checked and balanced by an opposing force like a VAT. Without it, it would just become another tool for the politician to buy votes. The second problem is the amount. What is the proper amount for the freedom dividend? Too much will cause inflation. Back to the example of the baker. If there's $100 in the economy and I only make one loaf of bread a day, that means I could charge $100 for the bread. Now, too little, then it's no different from giving everybody $1 a day. It really makes no difference. Andrew addressed this, stating that $12,000 a year is below the poverty line, but enough to make a difference. But for a numbers guy, that sounds more like feeling than a real number. And lastly, who gets to decide how much? Because that person or group has a $3 trillion decision to make that impacts everyone in the country. And that's a lot of power and a lot of responsibility. And with great power comes, and that's my rant. The freedom dividend is near and dear for socialists like me, so I'm criticizing it not out of hate, but out of great love. And I'm also planning on going through Andrew's position in the future, so let me know if you like this content. Click the subscribe or leave a comment. And that's all, world.